the topmost priority. We don't require any foreign investment, or we don't require anybody to come here and establish an industry here, number one. Number two, I have more or less the technology, more or less the infrastructure here, but I have a small about 5 to 10% gap which I don't have, which I need to fill in. Tie up, have a joint venture or a consultancy or a tie up, whichever way it is, with a foreign industry. Fill in this gap, acquire the complete know-how, the technology gap, and produce it, and it's more like IDDM. It's more like IDDM. Second priority. Third, you have only about 30 to 40% probably the knowledge or infrastructure. Your TRL levels are about 3 or so, or 4 maybe. So you need to have a joint venture with someone at 49%, or in some cases where it is more than 50% also. Then have the tie-up, then acquire the knowledge, try to produce jointly, joint IPRs, whatnot, and all that, have it. The last one is, we don't have anything, very basics, minimal we have. So invite the foreign industry, they can establish here 100%, 99%, whatever it is, or a joint venture, they produce here. So the item is being produced here in India, and we are getting employment and other benefits, and the systems are being produced in the thing. Unless we follow this, if there is an Indian industry here, or a couple of Indian industries, if they are existing last 30 years, 40 years, or 20 years, let's say, they have been supplying some technologies, some products to us today. In that same area for the same product, if in a Make in India concept, if someone comes here and establishes a factory here and starts producing them, it happens that only these industries which have been there existing with us last 20 years will be killed. So we need to ensure that the people who have been working, the people who have already established it here, those technologies, those products, those equipment should be supported, and they should not be killed. What we need is what we don't have. So Make in India is just not Make in India, it is Indian designed, developed, manufactured item is the final goal when we need to have a product here. And then the important topic beyond, when we say, it's a very important one. When we say today, industry should get into defense production, yes, it is a starting point. Everyone looks at saying that I need to get into defense production, but once you get into defense production, you will understand. The domestic market which is there here will just not be sufficient for you to survive on a long-term basis. No industry can survive. You need to export. The moment you need to export that, you need to have state-of-the-art technologies. You should have developed the technology, you should have developed the product in timelines on par with any advanced nation. If you don't develop a technology, a product on par in timelines wise, we will not be accepted. Till now, the country has been technology follower. Some technology comes out somewhere elsewhere, and then we develop the technology after 7 years, 10 years, 12 years, 15 years. This will not make you sell outside unless you also come out with a product or a technology within about 2 to 3 years or 4 years of a technology or product comes out. We will not be selling our product outside. For this, I feel the stakeholders who are there in the present scenario, they need to redefine their roles. The 4 elements, the academia, the research institutes, the DPSUs, and the private sector, all need to redefine their roles. That's what I feel. Meaning, till yesterday, academic institutes have been concentrating primarily on the applied research and then translational research and development. The research institutes have been concentrating more on translational research or development and production, probably limited series production. DPSUs, some amount of development and production. and industries have been mere suppliers or production agencies. This is what the scenario what was existing. Today the scenario is changing, need to change. If we need to develop a technology which is going to come after 10 years, I need to do a basic research towards that direction in the academic institutes. The academic institutes at least should do about 30% of basic research, maybe about 30 to 40% on the applied research, then translational research and development. Then second, the research institute, they should concentrate at least 30 to 40% on applied research and then translational research, and then about 30 to 40% of development. Coming to the DPSUs, you should have about 40 to 50% development activity and about 50% or maybe 60% on production, lead integration, or large systems production. Coming to the private sector, very importantly, definitely private sector also need to have at least about 15% of research component. Research in the niche areas. There are examples today in India, a lot of companies who have come out with products which are really world-class products, who are selling products all over the advanced nations. Many products are there today. It's out of sheer research what has been done by them with academic institute together. If we have done extremely well in ICT area, coming out with many products, many innovations, we can definitely do that in the defense technologies also. So at least about 15% research in the niche areas need to be done. Definitely the government agencies, the research organizations which are there with the constrained environment, whatever they have, they will not be able to do the research in each and every area. So the private sector also need to get. And today I said there are a lot of support mechanisms have been created or being created again. So there shouldn't be much of a problem. And there are many incubation centers or centers of excellence are being created almost every year. At least about 2 to 3 centers of excellence are being created at various academic institutes which can be utilized by the private industry also. The remaining, definitely the industry need to have the production, they need to survive, they need to have a long-term surviving with, of course, as I said, you need to be competing with the international market, both quality-wise and cost-wise and performance-wise. So then only we will be able to export our products outside. Today, some products what we have developed today, a lot of interest is there from all over the world. Today for the Akash missile, I think at least 5 to 6 countries have come forward saying that you please supply us. Similarly, sonar systems, similarly torpedo systems, similarly some of the radars what we have developed. Many of these things people are coming forward and asking for them. So if we develop, there will be a lot of market. So this is how I feel that the 4 elements needs to coexist. There should be synergy among the 4 elements and then work for the future wherein the government what is perceiving today, at least in the next 5 to 7 years, the import should be brought down to about 30% and the export should be going up. This is what is government thinking. Today, definitely Honorable Raksha Mantri has said that in the missiles where we have done exceedingly well, where we are most of the systems and most of the technologies we are able to produce in the country, in the next about 4 to 5 years, we should not import any missile. This is what Honorable Raksha Mantri is looking for. So to do that, we need to work together. Definitely private industry need to play a major role, and the government, the MOD and the Honorable Raksha Mantri are looking for an important role from the private industry. And at this juncture, with all these policies coming out, with the mindset what is there in the government, I think it's right time that such a seminar is happening. I once again congratulate all the organizers and Shri Muradhar Rao who is behind it for such a important event being conducted today. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir, for the informative session. Moving ahead, I will request Mr. Sandeep Jajodia, our Senior Vice President, ASSOCHAM, and Chairman and Managing Director, Monet Ispat and Energy Limited, to please come forward and address the audience.
Shri Muralidhar Rao, National General Secretary, Bharatiya Janata Party, dignitaries on the dais, eminent speakers, delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. The security and defense sector usually operates at a much higher technological sophistication levels than any other sector in the country. This makes the creation of industrial capabilities in defense a greater challenge. India's quest for self-reliance in defense therefore has to be seen in the context of the broader science and technology base in the country in general and the industrial capability in specific. The self-reliance model adopted in practice by India can best be described as one that fundamentally relied on diversification in the sources of weapon and military technology, while working on establishing and expanding the indigenous base for design, development, and manufacture of weapons and equipment. India is being repeatedly subjected to terror and cyber attacks, and hostile groups have also established front organizations in many Indian cities. As India's counter-terror efforts is yet to attain the global sophistication levels, it has been estimated that the expenditure on homeland security market in India is to reach $14.9 billion by 2020 from the current levels of US $10.2 billion, growing at a CAGR rate of 7.9%. The new dimensions of threats India faces require very agile security governance. Our state responses are gearing up to match the speed with which things are changing. The security in Indian cities has substantially evolved, but still remains challenging. We will need fast deployment of manpower and technologies, not just to secure cities, but also to ensure that India's growth rate continues at over 8% per annum. The cyber domain, the fourth security dimension after air, land, and sea, offers its own unique set of challenges. India needs to move from the reactive to preventive strategy, which would entail significant IT and management efforts. Technology has to and will play an increasing role in the entire gamut of security components: counter-terrorism, border security, immigration, entry and exit point monitoring. More than 40 countries have already adopted biometrics for entry, while 12 and 13 countries require biometrics for granting visa. Keeping in mind the huge financial and infrastructure requirements, there is a large potential for corporates to play a role in the internal security sector. They can develop critical technologies for the country's unique challenges, supply sophisticated equipment, and ensure timely implementation of a variety of security solutions. Ultimately, in the arena of internal security, the race will be won by who makes effective use of latest technology, the terrorists or the government. On the defense side, India has the third largest armed forces in the world. The allocation of defense in India's union budget is approximately $34.53 billion, and 31% of the defense budget is spent on capital acquisitions. 60% of defense-related requirements are met by imports, which offers a huge opportunity for import substitution. The most important initiative of the government is the Make in India campaign, which brings under one umbrella the various initiatives taken or proposed to be taken to boost domestic manufacturing. Its success in the defense sector will largely depend on the extent to which the government can leverage its massive spending program to promote domestic manufacturing. The government has taken several policy initiatives to lower entry barriers and improve the ease of doing business in defense manufacturing. The regime and procedure for the grant of an industrial license for manufacturing defense equipment has been significantly liberalized and speeded up. Clarifications have been issued to facilitate the implementation of offset obligations, and export strategy has been announced, with export NOCs being issued online. Further, the FDI policy has been liberalized, almost 90% of AONs that have been approved by the Defense Acquisition Council in the last 2 years have been under the 3 Make in India categories, and a new DPP is under finalization that should further strengthen the policy regime to promote defense production in India. Overall, the industry has appreciated the measures taken and the proposed innovations in DPP 2016. For instance, the industry welcomes the proposal to identify select Indian private sector defense manufacturers as strategic partners and believes that the new acquisition category of indigenous designed, developed, and manufactured will be a game changer for the future and will foster innovation and R&D. There are some words of caution though. Some OEMs are apprehensive about achieving the indigenous content of 60% and feel that this needs to be reduced or at least calibrated. For instance, almost 70% of the raw materials in aerospace has to be imported as composites, and many exotic alloys are not made in India. There is more than can be done through simplification of regulations and creation of an A&D ecosystem to accelerate growth. Infrastructure and skill development are critical for achieving self-reliance, and the government should continue encouraging clusters. The private sector should be treated as an equal partner, and a collaborative partnership approach should be followed with the supplier. Finally, the proof of the pudding is in its eating. The government must award major contracts to private sector in India as soon as possible. The public-private partnership call for security and defense providers provides the foundation for effective critical infrastructure and key resource protections. A wide range of government and private sector partners bring core competencies that add value to partnerships. Prevention, response, mitigation, and recovery efforts are most efficient and effective when there is full participation of government and industry partners. Therefore, it is important to apprise corporate leaders through the use of public platforms and private communications benefits of investing in security and defense industry that exceeds their business needs. Creating an environment that encourages and supports incentives for companies to voluntarily adopt for security and defense production. Greater private involvement would add much needed resource to those invested by the public sector, enhance efficiencies of projects, and improve prospects for success. A coordinated response would contribute in ways that benefit businesses and government alike. This is a critical juncture for expanding private sector involvement and for building upon the work that is already being done. I congratulate ASSOCHAM, Bharat, Niti, and other organizers for organizing this summit, and I'm sure that this event will give us an insight of the perception and views of corporate India about the zeal in developing capabilities for defense production in India, and views of government as well as to support this effort of self-reliance in defense production with the involvement of private sector. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Well, moving ahead, I would request Lieutenant Colonel Vijay Tomar and from our National Council member Bharati Niti to please come forward and deliver a short brief to the audience. Welcome, sir.
Honorable Muralidhar Rao ji, the brainchild behind Bharat Niti, the interactive interface between the government and public per se on policy matters only. We only deal about policy matters for the problems that are existing within the country. And this, defense being the most important thing, was taken as a policy matter, wherein the indigenization and beyond, as the subject goes, is what is going to be the interactive session today. All the points have generally been covered by all the speakers. हिंदी में एक सेइंग है, शांति का रथ उस मार्ग पे नहीं चल सकता जिस पर तोपें बिछी हों। हमारे आसपास सिर्फ तोपों की फैक्ट्रियां हैं और कुछ नहीं है। Another saying we go by saying that if you want to be living in peace, be ready and prepared for war. Preparation of war cannot depend upon the external forces. So here comes that the best helping hand is at the end of your arm. That's your own hand. And that is where the Indian industry comes in. Since all the points have been covered, I'll summarize the entire thing into 3 subjects. I'm drawing a very rough simile of what I had studied in 82, 83 when the computers had just come in: hardware, software, and the humanware. First, we'll tackle hardware, which is the primary subject of the industry. JANS 2016 gives a 3 lakh crore budget, the 4th largest expenditure by India on defense and security issues. From Jugaad for 75,000, which is a combination of tractor, truck, and Tullu, to Mangalyaan at 4 rupees 86 paisa per kilometer, is given by this industry. You are the strength. I was very happy when I was doing my tank technology course. We have been to all the PSUs, the Navratnas. It was somewhere in 95, 96. When I was I will not be naming the industry because it is something which is secret. I saw the lightest element, lightest compound, metallic compound of the world, Litel. That thing has been pasted here in my brain. Litel, which was lighter than the paper and strongest of the strongest material available. I'm sure those in the PSUs are aware who was doing on it. And the second was the carbon fiber component, which was being developed for the re-entry vehicles. And I'm so happy to see today that 83 vehicles have been launched by the same PSLVs by innovative and ingenuity of the same industry. Because whether it be PSU or private industry, both are industry into defense. That they've been able to launch 83 vehicles, and it is the continuous effort of this hardware, and that is industry. Coming on to the software. 85% of the NASA intelligence is coming from India. Genesis of the entire computerization, at least 90% is Indian brain. When we are talking about software now, giving a rough simile, is Indian brains. Application of that same software towards hardware. We'll go one by one. Application of the same software towards hardware. If the same thing can be done in NASA, why can't it be done in India? We have the industry, we have the human resources. The same must be done at the best possible way. I remember in 1984 when we were doing an operation, and my recovery gear, the primary gear of the recovery broke up. I'll be mixing the language, it will be easier. जिस समय में वो रिकवरी का गियर हमने अपने चैनल से डिमांड किया, हमें बताया गया it will take about a month, and the recovery gear takes the entire load of the logistics. We went to Batala और उसने वो recovery gear बना के हमको at about 1/10 the price दे दिया, for which the imported price would have been very high. That's a lead to the industry. Coming to the humanware. Well, my brother in arms are already there, which are looking for the support of hardware and software. Where Bharat Niti comes in is the bus, which is the interactive session, which is the interactive platform between the 3 wares. I think that is enough, and after this, we'll have someone else who will be addressing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for that informative session. Well, I would now request Shri Deepak Rathji, our CEO and Group Editor Bharat Niti, to please come forward and deliver the concluding remarks. Let's have a huge round of applause for Shri Deepak Rathji. So we cannot conclude this session without your remarks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for showing so much patience. Thank you, everybody, for the first for the inaugural session, and we'll have a little tea, and thereafter we'll get into real, serious business. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I request everybody to kindly proceed for a short tea break of 10 minutes. I'll see you back in next 10 minutes in the banquet hall for our first session for the day, for the first technical